It's time for the Douglas Coleman Show. Mr. Smooth and Savvy is joined by guests from all walks of life, from the entertainment industry to authors to political and social commentators, the famous and not so famous, the controversial and the light and fluffy. We have it all. Now, here's Douglas Coleman.
Okay, please welcome to the Douglas Coleman Show, Laurel C. Fox. Hi, Laurel. How are you?
Hello, Douglas. I'm good. How are you doing?
Doing great. Thank you. Thank you for coming on the show. Nice to have you here.
Yes, thank you for having me.
So I see you came through Charlie Barrett, and Charlie is a very nice man. He was on the show as a guest, actually, about 3 years ago. We had a great interview, and I'm kind of in admiration of Charlie because during his career, he met two of my biggest idols in this world. And number one was the Beatles, and he met them all four at the same time, which was impressive. Because I've had other guests on who have maybe met one or something, but he met all four at the same time in the same room at Abbey Road Studio, which I thought was amazing. And then he worked for 15 years for Johnny Carson, who is my other great idol in this business.
Right.
So
yeah, Charlie's pretty amazing. He's what we call, the GOAT or the OG. He's it.
Yeah, definitely.
He's it. Yeah.
And we had a great interview, and God, it's been, 2 or 3 years. But anyways, if you ever get bored, you want to look it up. It's on my YouTube, and we talked for about 40 minutes.
I definitely believe that.
So anyways, you're here to promote a book, and you've got a book out called Braving the Way. Have you published other books, or is this your first one?
I have not, Douglas, and this will be my only.
Your only book.
So
okay.
I'm very proud of it. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I was reading through the book description, and the story is rather tragic. It's very tragic. Yeah. I don't want to give away the whole thing yet, so let's kind of start at the beginning. So your daughter was hit by a car, is that correct?
Yes. I'm at work one day in Los Angeles, and I get a phone call from a teacher at school on a cell phone, panicked, and told my daughter was just hit by a car. And of course, I, like quicksand, go into the ground, wondering, of course, many questions going through my brain. But yeah, I was the mom that got that phone call that no parent or person ever wants.
No, definitely not. How long ago was this?
So this was 10 years ago, June 4th, exactly.
Oh, okay.
This past June. Yeah, 10 years ago.
Do you have any details you want to share about it? Like, how did she get hit by a car, or what happened?
I do, yes. There are some things I can't talk about, but I can talk about most of it. So she was at school, and it was about 1:30 in the afternoon. The volleyball team was crossing a freeway off-ramp, and a car could not stop. A driver could not stop and wound up hitting 3 kids. And Taylor was hit in the crosswalk and thrown 4 lanes over to the freeway on-ramp on the other side of the boulevard.
Oh my God.
So a couple of other girls were hurt, just not as, I would say, physically damaged as bad as Taylor. Taylor unfortunately suffered a traumatic brain injury. People that came upon her quickly thought she was dead. So just, then the journey begins.
So you said some of it you couldn't talk about. Is there litigation still pending on this?
No, not still pending, just things that we went through. So, yeah.
Oh, there's things that you'd rather not talk about, in other words.
Yeah, that and legally I can't really talk about. But yes, there was a lot of litigation from many avenues. Yeah.
All right. Well, can I ask if the driver was impaired somehow? Was drunk or
He was not. And that is part of our journey in this book, Braving the Way, where we do eventually meet him 9 years later, and forgiveness is found with my daughter. I immediately found forgiveness, thinking no one would do that on purpose. Go through a group of kids and hit them, right? He also was a father at the time that it happened to young children. And obviously that wasn't my focus, the day this happened. it was more like, let's put him aside. But yeah, there's a great twist and turn regarding him in the book.
Okay, so as far as you're concerned, it was just a tragic accident. There was nothing malicious.
Unfortunately, yes.
Yeah.
For many people, yes.
Okay. Now, it says that you spent 66 days in the hospital. Now, that must have been the longest 66 days. I assume your daughter was in a coma or unconscious, or tell us a little about that experience.
Yeah, so you're right on about that. That 66 days felt like 66 years, really, because they were just long and grueling. But she was in an induced coma for 9 days, I believe. And once she was taken off that, she started to breathe on her own a little bit, which then transferred to more like a 30-day self-coma. And when I say that, I mean she was awake, like her eyes were open for about 45 minutes a day. So there was no communication. There was no movement from her body. It was really just kind of a self-coma.
She suffered traumatic brain injury. Is that correct?
Yes.
I'm just going to read this. It says, I write about traumatic brain injury and what that looks like and what it does to a family and to a survivor. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, so there's a lot with traumatic brain injury. It's pretty intense, and when I talk about that coma, it's not like they come right out of it. There was no language. My 14-year-old was back in diapers. She was paralyzed on her right side. Pelvis was broken, but brain injury is a lot of rest and kind of making them sleep through the healing. But she didn't say a word until day 38 in the hospital. We were trying to get some kind of communication, thumbs up, thumbs down. Also with brain injury, there's brainstorming, there's waking up and she doesn't know where she is. She can't really put things together, and so it's very frustrating for a 14-year-old brain. So again, I think the hardest part is she can't communicate. There's no words, even though she knows where she is, but she doesn't, and we have to repeat everything, what happened, where you are. It's pretty intense. There's no really way to kind of box it up for you. I wish I could, but man, it's a hard journey, brain injury, and I know anyone that's been through it knows what I mean.
Well, during that time, what was the prognosis from the doctors? Were they optimistic, or did they not know, or what was the sort of vibe you got from them?
Yeah, it's a good question because I talk about this in the book. We had an amazing doctor who we connected with, and still am connected with. He was so great in his bedside manner, where he just sort of said, I don't know how this is going to turn out. She could be in a wheelchair. She may not speak again. She may not be able to do this or that. And then he turned around and said, but I sure hope I'm wrong. And I want you to prove me wrong. And so with that, you just give me that. And I was ready to roll. So that was my goal. I was very determined to get her better. She was very determined to get better. But brain injury is a long road. It is a marathon, and doctors and nurses all warned me. It's a long one. It's a long marathon. And if you can sustain and get through it, you can do it.
So I guess I have to ask the obvious question. Why did you decide to write this book? I assume you wrote it fairly recently?
I did, yes.
So after all these years, why did you decide to write a book about this situation, this event?
Yeah, I think, it started with an online journal from day one for me, and it became my everything, and it was very cathartic, and it was my comfort, and being in the hospital alone so much, I really connected with writing. I don't know what that was because I've never considered myself a writer. And then what happened is about 2 years later, after she was hit by the car, many people approached me and said, I miss reading what you have to say. I miss your journals. I miss hearing from you. And I did write some chapters throughout my journey, my own personal journey. And that was when I decided, wow, I think I might have something. And mainly, Douglas, it's to help other people and to have someone in my situation not knowing how the heck they're going to get through this and how they're going to be brave and courageous and advocate and do all these things that we're asked to do when someone that we love is in the hospital and can't do anything. I think it's a very interesting thing happening to many people right now for many reasons, but it's hard to navigate. And I wish I had my book, truthfully.
Is Taylor an only child?
She's not. She has a younger sister, Emma, and she's 2 years younger.
Oh, okay. So how did this affect Emma when that happened?
Yeah, I talk about that in my book as well. My 11-year-old at the time this happens is stunningly stoic. And so I was like, oh, she's okay. She's good. And then about 3 years later, that collateral damage showed very, very brightly because it was rough. But she is great now because, again, 10 years later, we all have hindsight, right? It's a beautiful thing to have that, and that's a gift that we have now. So we've done a lot of therapy. We've done a lot of work. A trauma in any family is difficult, but brain injury is special in that way. She became an older sister at 11 very quickly and kind of has continued to play that role a little bit, but Taylor's amazing. So
would it give away the whole thing if I asked how she's doing now?
No, it wouldn't. No, it wouldn't, because it's a journey throughout the book of just our hope, and our hope prevailed. So she is in graduate school. She is doing very well, living on her own, but we have residual things that we deal with on a daily basis. And I think with traumatic brain injury, depending how bad it is, I think everyone that has a brain injury has it forever. But she's learning how to navigate through the world. The biggest thing is she is a beautiful, kind human being. And I state this a lot. I think people can get a long way on that in the world.
Did she make a full recovery? I mean, did she have her motor skills and communication skills all back, or are they not quite?
Communication skills, if you spoke to her for 30 minutes, you wouldn't know. But if you spoke to her for a couple hours, you would. So there are definitely some little things, but, nothing that shows up right away. I don't know that she'll drive. I think that's a goal for her own self. Motor skills and multitasking, that kind of thing, that's difficult. But she still has time. The brain is plastic.
Yeah.
The brain is something we can change, and it's quite amazing.
That's true. Well, I'm glad that the book has a happy ending. And
yes. Thank you. Yes.
So I guess
definitely does.
I guess one question that I wanted to ask you, and then we'll kind of wrap this up. So what was your takeaway? I mean, after this whole thing and time has gone by, and then you wrote the book, what has changed with you?
Yeah, I talk about a moment in the beginning where I'm sitting on this cold floor in the hallway of an ICU, and I say to myself, how the hell am I supposed to do this? By myself, I have to quit my job that's paying me, and I have to dig into this. My daughter with tubes all over her. And I didn't know that I could do it. And I really had to dig deep into myself. And this is the point of my book, was my journey inside Taylor's own journey of survival. And I dig deep, and I do a lot of soul searching, and I do a lot of meditation and a lot of spending time by myself in deep thought. And I have breakdowns, and I, cry, and I do things that release it from me. So I think my biggest takeaway is that I am brave, and I know that now, and I will always have that. And that's with a lot of, resilience and strength and tenacity throughout, where I found that.
Has the book been released?
It has. It was released on June 20th, yes.
Okay. How's it doing? Are you getting positive reviews?
I'm getting wonderful, amazing feedback, which that's the best thing I could hope for. So yes, thank you. It's been really incredible. I get emails and phone calls every day. So it's
fantastic. Beautiful. Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. Laurel, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your story. The last question, do you have a website that you want to give out?
I do. It's called bravingtheway.com. Braving is spelled a little play on words, BRAVING, bravingtheway.com. So yeah, you can find me there.
Okay. And there's information about you in the book and where to buy and all that good
Yeah.
stuff. Okay.
Yes, everything you need.
All right, great. Well, again, thank you for coming on the show and sharing your story, and best of luck with the book. Hope it does well.
Douglas, thank you. That was lovely. Thanks.